armies are in shock after Jungkook's cryptic comment on Jimin's secret wedding plans. What is he hiding? And why is no one talking about it? I should have stopped him before it went too far. Jungkook's voice broke the tense silence like a shard of glass hitting a marble floor. The air in the practice room, usually filled with laughter, music, and rhythm, hung heavy with something colder now. His hands trembled, clenched into fists, knuckles pale. No one else dared to speak. Outside, the rain lashed violently against the windows of the HYBE building, a perfect echo to the chaos beginning to unfold inside. The flickering fluorescent lights above cast fragmented shadows on the wooden floor, giving the room a surreal, fractured feel, like a memory trying to forget itself. Namjoon stood at the door, frozen mid-step. His phone was still lit up with the headline that had exploded across social media just 10 minutes ago. Park Jimin's secret engagement. Who is the mysterious bride? But it wasn't the article itself that had sent shockwaves through the group. It was Jungkook's reaction. "Did you know?" Jin finally whispered, his voice low, cautious. He stepped forward, brows drawn together in a way that made him look older than usual, wearier. "Tell us the truth, Jungkook. What did you mean by that?" Jungkook didn't look at any of them. He was staring at the floor like it held the answer to a question he didn't want to ask. "He wasn't supposed to go through with it," Jungkook said, barely above a whisper. "It wasn't just about love, it was something else, something he never told you." Taehyung took a sharp breath. "What are you saying? That Jimin's being forced into this?" "No," Jungkook said. "He's choosing this, but not because he wants to." The words hung in the air like a noose. Flashback, 2 months earlier. The night had been too quiet. Jungkook remembered it now with surgical clarity, the way Jimin had slipped away after dinner, saying he had a meeting with someone from his past. No further explanation. No eye contact. Just a nervous tug at his sleeve and a ghost of a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Jungkook had followed him, more out of instinct than mistrust. He stayed far enough not to be noticed, but close enough to hear the laughter coming from behind the closed cafe door. And then he saw her, the woman, dressed in black, hair tucked behind one ear, with the kind of smile that didn't belong to a stranger, not to Jimin. But it wasn't her that disturbed him. It was Jimin's eyes, distant, hollow, but committed. Back in the practice room, Hoseok spoke for the first time. "Do you think he's in trouble?" Jungkook hesitated. He said it was his choice, but I think someone made him believe it was the only one. Outside, thunder cracked like an old secret being unearthed. The rain grew heavier, pressing against the windows with almost desperate force. Namjoon finally moved. "We have to find him." Silence. Then Yoongi from the corner flatly said, "You're all missing the point. If Jungkook knew about this and said nothing, what else is he not telling us?" All eyes turned back to Jungkook. The youngest member of BTS, the golden Maknae, the loyal brother, the one who never cracked, finally met their eyes, and behind them was a storm. "I lied to protect him," he said, "but now I think I've made it worse." His voice cracked on the last word, and in that moment, Jungkook wasn't an idol, wasn't a performer. He was just a man holding a truth too heavy to bear. And it was only the beginning. "You had months, Jungkook. Why now?" Namjoon's voice rang out like thunder in the narrow hallway outside the practice room. His fists were clenched at his sides, shoulders squared in a way that reminded everyone why he'd been their leader for more than a decade. But it wasn't anger in his voice, it was betrayal. Jungkook stood still, staring at the faded BTS poster still clinging to the wall across from him. They all looked so young in that photo, untouched, uncomplicated. A silent ache coiled in his chest. "I was trying to protect him," Jungkook said again, his voice hoarse. "You think I wanted to lie to you, to all of you?" Jin stepped between them, palms up like a mediator who knew this would only get worse before it got better. "Then tell us the truth now, all of it, because this silence you've kept, it's not protection anymore. It's poison." There was a pause. Then Jungkook finally exhaled like a man who had been holding his breath underwater for far too long. "It started 3 months ago," he said. "After that meeting, The woman, her name is Min Seorin. She's not just some old flame. She's connected to someone from Jimin's past, someone dangerous. Taehyung stepped closer, the confusion in his face darkening into something sharper. Dangerous how? Like sassing level, or worse. Worse, Jungkook said, his voice flat. She's the daughter of the CEO of LUXMEDIA, the same group that tried to sabotage HYBE back in 2019. Yoongi's head snapped up. What the hell does that have to do with Jimin? Her father blames us for the collapse of his company's partnership deal, and apparently, he never forgot, never forgave. The air turned cold. Even the hum of the ceiling lights felt quieter now, as if the building itself was listening. He approached Jimin through her, made it seem like a romantic reunion at first. Then the conditions came. Jungkook's eyes burned with the memory. If Jimin agreed to marry her publicly, they'd wipe clean a file, something from his trainee years, something he never told even me about. But if he did... Jungkook swallowed hard. They'd release everything, and not just about him. Yoongi's voice was a low growl. What kind of file? I don't know, Jungkook admitted. He wouldn't say, just that it would destroy everything. His career, our group, maybe even HYBE itself. Jin staggered back a step. Jesus Christ, Jimin. He thought he was saving us, Jungkook whispered. He thought marrying her was the lesser evil. Namjoon turned away, his jaw tight. So that's why he's been distant. That's why he canceled his solo tour. Why he's barely speaking to any of us. Jungkook nodded. He didn't want to put anyone else in danger. Taehyung scoffed. And he thought we'd just let him go. Just stand by and clap while he walks into some twisted trap for the rest of his life. He didn't think he had a choice, Jungkook shouted, his voice raw now. He said if he told any of us, it would only make us targets too. You think that didn't kill me? Silence again, but this time it was alive, with fury, with guilt, with grief. Then we fight, Yoongi said finally, his voice sharp as a blade. If they're threatening him, if they've got something on him, we find out what it is, and we burn it down. Namjoon turned back, eyes meeting Jungkook. You're sure he's still going through with it? Jungkook pulled out his phone and showed them the message Jimin had sent him the night before. Just one line. Don't come to the wedding, please. 2 days later, Seoul buzzed with the whispers of a wedding no one saw coming. No invitations had been sent to fans, no public statements made. Only a strategically leaked photo of a pale pink envelope, sealed with a silver wax stamp, had made its way online, stoking a frenzy among armies worldwide. The image was elegant, private, almost too perfect. But behind that facade, chaos brewed. Inside a luxury hotel in Gangnam, the wedding preparations were already underway. Jimin stood before a mirror, dressed in a crisp designer suit, but his reflection didn't look back. He stared at it like a stranger. Seorin entered the room silently. She wore an ivory gown that shimmered under the chandelier light, but her eyes were hard, calculating. You look handsome, she said softly, moving closer. It's not every day a global icon gives up his freedom for something bigger. Jimin didn't respond. His face remained blank. You're not having second thoughts, are you? She asked, tilting her head. Because my father is watching, and he's very good at making people disappear. Jimin finally turned to her. His expression was unreadable, but something behind his eyes flickered. I'm here, aren't I? He said quietly. That's all that matters. Downstairs, in the shadows of the hotel's service corridors, the rest of BTS was already in motion. I still can't believe we're doing this, Jin muttered, adjusting the earpiece in his left ear. This feels like a K-drama and a heist movie had a baby. Yoongi replied calmly, let's just make sure the baby doesn't blow up. They moved like ghosts, trained after years of navigating backstage chaos. Taehyung and Hoseok were at the back entrance, intercepting the florist's crew. Namjoon was with a tech contractor, posing as AV support. And Jungkook, heart pounding like a war drum, had already bypassed the security system with the help of an old friend from his trainee days, someone who owed him a favor too big to refuse. They weren't just trying to stop a wedding. They were trying to save their brother. Jungkook slipped past the ballroom where the guests, mostly corporate elites and faceless investors, were beginning to gather. He had 30 minutes before the ceremony began. 30 minutes to find Jimin, convince him to walk away, and somehow avoid sparking a scandal that could implode everything they had built. But what he hadn't counted on was seeing Jimin first. He found him in a private suite, standing alone on a balcony, the wind tugging at his hair. Jimin didn't flinch when the door opened. He didn't turn. He just spoke softly. "I told you not to come." Jungkook's voice cracked. "And I told you I'd never let you do this alone." Jimin closed his eyes. "You don't understand," he said. "If I walk away, everything goes to hell. My past, our past, it'll all be dragged out." "Then let it," Jungkook said. "We face it together. Isn't that what we promised back then?" Jimin finally turned to face him, and for a brief moment all the masks slipped away. His face was raw with pain, fear, love. "You don't get it," he whispered. "There's more. It's not just the file. Seorin, she said she knows about you too." Jungkook froze. "What?" "She said if I leave, they'll leak your father's records. The things HYB buried to protect your image. She's been digging, Kook. This isn't just about me anymore." Silence dropped like a guillotine between them. But Jungkook stepped forward anyway. "Then let them," he said, eyes blazing. "Let them try to break us. We've been through worse. And if you think I care more about my image than I do about you, then you never really knew me." Jimin's lip trembled. For a moment, the weight of everything seemed too much. Then the door behind them slammed open. Seorin stood there, flanked by two silent men in dark suits. Her voice was calm, but her eyes glittered with rage. "How touching," she said, "but I'm afraid this fairy tale ends here." Jungkook moved instinctively, stepping between her and Jimin. "You want to ruin us? Go ahead, but we're not going to make it easy for you." She smiled, cold, cruel. "You still think this is about choice, about love, but it's not. This is about control, and you've already lost it." From the hallway came a sudden crash, followed by a scream. Namjoon's voice crackled through the earpiece. "We've got company, security, been tipped off. Someone sold us out." Everything descended into chaos. Jimin grabbed Jungkook's hand. "We have to go now." They ran down the corridor, past stunned guests, through the service exit where Hoseok and Taehyung were already waiting with a black van. As the tires screeched away from the hotel, Jimin looked back only once. Not at the building, but at the version of himself that almost disappeared inside it. And in the silence that followed, no one spoke. They didn't need to, because everything had changed. Forever. "Do you know what you've done?" Namjoon's voice was sharp as shattered ice. The moment the van skidded to a stop in the underground parking lot of the safe house, he slammed the door behind him and turned on Jungkook and Jimin like a storm breaking loose. Jimin was still catching his breath, chest heaving, the collar of his once pristine wedding shirt now torn at the seam. Jungkook stood beside him, face pale, jaw locked, a line of dried blood trickling from a shallow cut on his cheek. "Tell me, Jimin," Namjoon continued, his tone low but deadly, "did you ever think about how this would end for the rest of us? For the fans? For everyone who's believed in us for a decade?" "I tried," Jimin said quietly. "I tried to protect everyone. That's why I kept it from you." Yoongi stepped forward, arms crossed, his voice cold. "Don't give us that. You didn't protect us. You isolated yourself, let yourself get manipulated, and nearly tied yourself to a woman whose father has been trying to bury this group for years." "Stop it," Jungkook snapped, stepping between them. "He didn't let himself get manipulated, he was blackmailed." "And you knew," Yoongi shot back. "You knew, and you said nothing. You were ready to let him walk into that marriage while the rest of us smiled for cameras and acted like everything was okay." Jungkook's face twisted. "I wasn't ready, I was terrified." "Then you should have trusted us," Namjoon exploded. "We're not strangers, Jungkook, we're brothers. Or were you so sure we'd turn on you the moment things got ugly?" Silence fell, sharp and cutting. Jimin looked away. I couldn't drag you into it, he said. Not when Seorin's father made it clear he'd go after anyone who got involved. And now we are involved, Jin said grimly. You think LUXEMEDIA is going to sit back and watch us parade around like heroes for crashing a high society wedding? No, they're going to come for all of us. Every skeleton we've buried, every scandal we dodged, they'll bring it to light. That file, Yoongi added, narrowing his eyes. Whatever it is, it better be worth it, because now the clock's ticking. Jimin looked down. I don't have the file. Everyone stared. What? I never saw it, he said. I only know what she told me, that it contains documents from HYBE's early days. Trainee contracts, mental health evaluations, surveillance logs, not just mine. Everyone. Apparently her father got them when one of our ex-managers sold him a hard drive years ago. Namjoon cursed under his breath. Those records were destroyed. No, Yoongi said darkly. We were told they were destroyed. Taehyung leaned against the wall, arms folded tightly, his eyes unreadable. So we're all compromised. Hosok finally spoke. His voice was calm, but there was a quiver beneath it. They said they'd leak my prescription history, make it look like I was abusing anxiety meds during tour. If they do that, the media won't hesitate. They'll tear us apart. Taehyung gave a bitter laugh. They probably already have drafts written. Global K-pop icons fake mental health struggles for sympathy. It writes itself. Jungkook slammed his hand against the wall. Then we beat them to it. Yoongi raised an eyebrow. How? By posting a group confession video. Hey ARMY, sorry we've been lying for 10 years, but we really were falling apart behind the scenes. No, Jungkook said, voice shaking. We stop letting them control the narrative. We don't confess. We reclaim the truth, piece by piece. And what exactly does that look like? Jin asked. Jungkook looked at Jimin. We expose Seorin's father. Namjoon blinked. You want to declare war on a media conglomerate that has the power to destroy us. We expose him, Jungkook repeated. Publicly, not just for the blackmail, but for everything. The sabotage of HYBE, the surveillance, the manipulation. We dig into his skeletons. There's no way a man like that doesn't have his own secrets. A heavy silence followed. Then Yoongi shrugged. Well, it's not the worst idea I've heard today. Jimin stepped forward. There's someone who might help. Her name's Yoonha. She was a junior producer at LUXEMEDIA before she went freelance. She's the one who warned me quietly when this all started. Namjoon nodded. Find her tonight. Yoonha looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. Her tiny apartment in Mappo smelled like instant coffee and printer toner, and the blinds were shut tight. When she opened the door and saw Jimin, she didn't look surprised, just tired. You're early, she said. I was expecting you tomorrow. I couldn't wait. She let him in without another word. The others stayed in the van outside, monitoring the area. Jungkook paced near the window like a panther. Inside, Yoonha pulled out a flash drive and placed it on the table between them. This is everything I could extract before I quit. Internal memos, meeting transcripts, a partial email dump, not the main file, they keep that offline. But this, she hesitated, this is enough to make people start asking questions. Jimin's hand hovered over the flash drive. Why are you helping me? She looked up. Her eyes were sharp, vulnerable. Because I watched what LUXEMEDIA did to people, she said, and I was too scared to speak out. You're the first person I've seen who was willing to burn for someone else. He said nothing, but his fingers closed around the drive. Be careful, she whispered. You're not just fighting a man, you're fighting an empire built on silence. 2 days later, the world broke open. At 8:03 a.m., a new Twitter account posted a single link with no caption. The domain was clean, professional, with only the words "the truth" behind the curtain at the top. Below that, leaked emails, audio files, and recorded memos showing years of coercion, manipulation, and targeted media attacks by LUXEMEDIA executives. By 9:00 a.m., #Luxemedia scandal was trending worldwide. By noon, stock prices had plummeted 17%. But that wasn't the end. A video followed, subtle but clear. A clip of Jimin in shadow, his voice steady. I was blackmailed into a marriage. I walked away. I'm not ashamed of surviving. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a confession. It was a declaration. Some fans screamed betrayal. Others flooded social media with support. Divisions formed, speculations ran wild. But what no one could deny was this: the facade had shattered. HYBE released a vague statement. LUXMEDIA denied everything. And BTS. They disappeared. Into rehearsals, into silence, into the next plan. Because the war wasn't over. It had just begun. You're trending #1 in 15 countries, Hoseok said, holding his phone like it was on fire. And not for your abs this time. Jungkook didn't smile. No one did. They were gathered in a secluded studio on the outskirts of Seoul, one that hadn't been used in years. The dust on the floor still bore the ghost of dance steps from their trainee days. Now, it was the makeshift war room of a band that wasn't sure it could still call itself whole. Namjoon sat cross-legged on the floor, poring over a printed copy of the leaked memos. His brows were furrowed, his fingers twitching like they were already composing lyrics to a requiem. Jin leaned against the mirrored wall, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. Yoongi was packing, something he rarely did unless he was writing or trying not to scream. Taehyung sat in the corner, sunglasses on indoors, still and quiet. He hadn't spoken much since the leak. Jungkook couldn't tell if it was anger, guilt, or something worse. Jimin was sitting by the window, phone in hand, eyes fixed on the screen, but he wasn't scrolling. He was staring like it might explode. Taehyung, Jungkook said softly, you should eat something. Jimin didn't answer. Yoongi stopped packing. He's not going to eat until we talk about what comes next, and neither am I. I say we sue, Jin said. LUXMEDIA been exposed. They're vulnerable. We have public sympathy. Let's use it. No, Namjoon said sharply. If we file a lawsuit now, it opens everything. Every deposition, every past contract, every sealed record. You think they won't countersue? Drag HYBE through the mud. Dig into our solo deals. This isn't about justice, it's about narrative control. Taehyung finally spoke, voice low. So what? We just let them breathe again. Let Seorin's father crawl back into his hole while we clean up the mess. No, Namjoon replied. We bury him, but not through courts, through truth. Hoseok frowned. You mean more leaks? I mean we take control of the story. We don't run, we release a statement. A joint one. No PR polish. No company approval, our words, our truth. Jimin looked up. And what if it's not enough? Jungkook met his gaze. Then at least we fall together, not apart. Silence settled like dust. I'll write it, Yoongi said. Give me 24 hours. That night, Jimin stood alone in the hallway outside the studio bathroom. The others were inside, bickering over word choices. But he couldn't breathe in there anymore. Jungkook found him there, leaning against the wall like it was the only thing keeping him from sliding to the floor. Tell me the rest, Jungkook said quietly. Jimin closed his eyes. What rest? You've been holding something back, I see it. The others don't, but I do. Jimin didn't answer at first. Then he slowly turned to face him. You remember that night in 2016, when we were in Busan and I disappeared for a few hours. Jungkook's stomach turned cold. Yeah, you said you went for a walk. I lied. Jimin's voice was fragile, like glass stretched too thin. I went to see someone from my past, a producer. He said he had an opportunity for me, a solo deal under the table, something that would free me from the group commitments. He made it sound like a gift. Jungkook's jaw tightened. What happened? I recorded a demo just one night. Stupid, desperate. I thought maybe I needed a way out. I was tired, burned out. I didn't want to leave BTS, but I didn't know how to stay either. Not with the pressure, the cameras, the diet pills, the masks. He looked away, voice barely audible now. Seorin's father got the recording. He's been sitting on it ever since. Said if I didn't marry her, he'd release it, frame it like I was trying to jump ship. Make it look like I betrayed all of you. Jungkook stepped closer, heart pounding. You should have told me. I was ashamed. I don't care, Jungkook snapped. Do you really think I'd ever leave you over something like that? We've all had moments like that, Taehyung. Hell, there were days I almost walked too. Jimin's eyes glistened. But you didn't. Jungkook reached out, grabbing Jimin's shoulder. Neither did you. You're still here. I don't know if I deserve to be. You do. Jimin let out a shaky breath. Why are you always the one pulling me back? Because no one else knows how to hold you like I do. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was filled with everything unsaid between them for years. And then, quietly, Jimin whispered, I'm scared, Jungkook. I know. 24 hours later, the statement went live. No flashy visuals, no marketing, just a plain text post signed by all 7 members released simultaneously across every platform. It read, We are BTS. We have always stood for truth, for resilience, and for the people who believe in us, not just as artists but as human beings. Recently, one of us was targeted, blackmailed, and nearly forced into a life not chosen. This is not the first time such tactics have been used against artists. It will not be the last. But we are done staying silent. If speaking out costs us endorsements, partnerships, even our careers, so be it. We would rather be honest and free than complicit and caged. To ARMY, thank you for standing by us, for believing in us, for reminding us that music can still mean something. We are not perfect, but we are together, and that's all that matters. Within minutes, the internet fractured. Some fans wept openly. Others were furious not at the band but at the industry. Hashtags exploded. We stand with BTS, truth over fame, Jimin deserved better. Western media outlets picked it up. CNN ran a segment. BBC called it a cultural reckoning. Even Billboard, usually conservative with its commentary, posted a rare editorial. When honesty is louder than charts. But not everyone was happy. Within hours, Seorin's father released a statement of his own. He denied the blackmail, accused BTS of manufacturing a narrative to escape accountability, and most damningly, attached a 15-second audio clip. It was Jimin's voice. Maybe I don't want to be part of this group forever. No context, no explanation, just enough to sow doubt. The media swarmed. But BTS was ready. Yoongi released the full recording, time-stamped, dated, unedited. It was from 2016, exactly as Jimin had said. A moment of emotional vulnerability followed immediately by. But I don't know who I am without them. God, that's terrifying. And that was when the tide turned. Public sympathy hardened into loyalty. A documentary deal was suddenly proposed. Hybe scheduled a press conference. And Seorin. She vanished. Her social media accounts deleted. Her family's PR firm issued a vague statement about private family matters. Rumors swirled. Some said she'd left the country. Others claimed she'd been hospitalized for a breakdown. None of the members spoke her name again. But behind closed doors, the scars remained. Will we survive this? Taehyung asked one night, sitting on the rooftop of the studio, his voice drifting into the sky. Jungkook sat beside him. We already did. Yeah, Taehyung murmured, but no one walks away clean. They didn't need to say more. Because beneath the spotlight, beneath the noise and the headlines and the hashtags, they all knew. The stage would never feel the same again. But maybe, just maybe, that was okay. You should have let me burn alone. Jimin's voice was a blade in the dark. Yoongi didn't flinch. He stood by the entrance to the dimly lit practice room, arms crossed, his silhouette cut against the flickering lead strip above. The room was empty except for the two of them, no staff, no managers, no shield from what needed to be said. I'm not interested in hero worship, Yoongi said flatly, but I also don't let my brothers destroy themselves for the sake of silence. Jimin turned his back to him, fingers twitching as if he wanted to grab something, break something, scream. But he didn't. He just stood there, back trembling with the weight of something he couldn't name. "You don't understand what it feels like," Jimin said. "To wake up every day knowing that if people really saw the cracks in you, they'd stop loving you. That all the love, every stage, every cheer, every goddamn lightstick would vanish the moment they realized you weren't worthy of it." "I do," Yoongi said quietly. "Every single one of us does. The only difference is you let it eat you alive." Jimin laughed, bitter. "Maybe I deserved to." Yoongi took a step forward. "You don't get to decide that anymore. We already chose. We already stood beside you. So you can keep punishing yourself in your head, or you can start trying to heal." Jimin didn't reply. He just let the silence stretch until it was suffocating. Downstairs, the rest of the group was meeting with legal advisors and crisis management specialists. HYBE had gone from panicking to posturing. The label had realized the band wasn't going quietly, and now they were trying to catch up, to turn rebellion into strategy. But the boys knew better. This wasn't a scandal. This was war. The leaked documents from LUXEMEDIA had unearthed more than blackmail and surveillance. Buried among the files were payment trails, millions of one routed through shell companies to manipulate digital charts, buy silence from journalists, and plant false narratives about idols from rival labels. Including BTS. Including themselves. Namjoon had found it, quietly, alone, and when he showed the others, he looked like a man who'd been gutted. "We didn't just survive the industry," he'd said. "We became part of it." It wasn't a confession, it was a reckoning. Now back upstairs, Jimin finally turned around to face Yoongi. His eyes were red, but dry. "If I do this," he said, "if I face everything, I want it all out, not just what they did to me, what I let happen, what I hid, what I almost became." Yoongi nodded. "Good, because that's the only way we win." That night, they called an emergency meeting. All 7 of them. No managers, no lawyers, no handlers. Just the people who mattered. They sat in a circle on the floor of their old dorm, the same place they had cried together after their first music show win, the same place they had nearly disbanded during their 3rd year. Time had aged them, sharpened them, broken them in beautiful and terrible ways. But here, now, they were raw again. "We're standing at the edge," Namjoon said, voice calm but heavy. "This doesn't stop with LUXEMEDIA. The corruption runs deeper, and if we expose it, we're not just risking our careers. We're pulling the curtain off the whole industry." Silence. Taehyung looked around. "If we're going to burn it all down, I want to say something first." He stood slowly. The room turned toward him. "I almost walked away last year," he said. "When my father got sick, when the pressure made me think about quitting for real, I told HYBE I needed time. They gave me 3 days. 3. Before they leaked a fake dating rumor to distract from the stock dip. I didn't speak up. I let it go." He exhaled shakily. "I'm done letting things go." Jin's voice was quiet. "Me too." Hoseok looked at his hands. "They told me to stop talking about my therapy sessions, said it would damage brand deals. I complied. I smiled. I danced. I swallowed the shame." He raised his eyes. "Never again." Yoongi said nothing. He just gave a sharp nod. Jungkook looked at Jimin. "We do this together." Jimin's voice was steady. "Together." And so they began. The next week was chaos. They met with investigative journalists, whistleblower lawyers, and security analysts. They mapped out the connections: LUXEMEDIA, HYBE's oldest investors, entertainment CEOs, politicians with ties to idol manufacturing scandals. It was worse than they thought. People had disappeared over this. Idols had been silenced, blacklisted, retired. Contracts buried. Trauma monetized. And as the days passed, the pressure mounted. Their schedules were canceled. Brands paused endorsements. Paparazzi trailed them like wolves. The public opinion swayed with every article. Some called them brave, others accused them of orchestrating a master PR coup. But none of that mattered anymore. They were past the point of no return. Then came the real explosion. A new file surfaced, an anonymous leak containing unreleased footage from 2018. It showed a BTS member, clearly Jungkook, screaming at a manager in a hotel hallway. The audio was muted, but the body language was violent. Shoving. Rage. The internet devoured it. Angry Jungkook trended. BTS abuse scandal followed. Fans cried, others defended, news anchors speculated. Jungkook was silent for 6 hours. Then he posted a video. His face bare, no filters, no music. "Yeah," he said, "that was me. I lost control. I was 21, overworked, sleep-deprived. The manager I screamed at was pushing me toward an interview I'd said no to 3 times. I'm not proud of that moment, but I won't let people rewrite it either." He looked into the camera like it owed him something. "You want truth? You've got it. Ugly, complicated, human. If that ruins the illusion, good. Maybe the illusion needed to die." It was the most shared post in the band's history. And it broke something open. Other idols began speaking out. Anonymous messages flooded forums. Old scandals resurfaced, no longer buried under legal threats and fan delusions. The K-pop industry began to tremble, not from hate, but from truth. And at the center of it stood BTS. Not gods. Not idols. Just men. Wounded, brave, real. On the rooftop of the HYBE building, weeks later, the 7 of them watched the sun rise over Seoul. No press, no stage lights, just dawn. "I used to think fame was our reward," Namjoon said. Yoongi lit a cigarette, passing it to Jin. Fame was the leash. "Then what's this?" Taehyung asked. "Freedom," Jimin said. Jungkook smiled. "And what comes with freedom?" "Uncertainty," Hoseok answered. "Chaos." "But also peace," Jin murmured. "And maybe that's enough." They didn't say more. They didn't need to. Because the fire hadn't destroyed them. It had forged them anew. "You need to leave, now." Taehyung's voice came through Jungkook's earpiece, calm but urgent. No panic, just a clinical tone that chilled the blood. Jungkook froze mid-step, the hallway lights of HYBE's upper floor flickering slightly above him like nervous eyelids. "Why?" Jungkook whispered. Security just tripled downstairs, and one of them's not wearing a HYBE badge. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't a warning, it's a message. You were seen in the archives room 2 nights ago. Someone reported it. You're a liability now." Jungkook turned slowly, heading back toward the emergency stairwell. His backpack was heavier than it should have been because of the USB drives inside. 2 of them. Confidential. Untouched. The kind of material not even HYBE wanted to keep digitally. The kind of material that could burn the industry to the ground. He was 10 steps from the stairwell door when the elevator at the end of the hallway dinged open. 2 men in black suits stepped out. One held a clipboard. The other had a gun holstered inside his coat. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He broke into a sprint. Footsteps thundered behind him. Shouts echoed. Somewhere below, alarms began to wail, but not publicly. These were internal systems, the kind of panic that wasn't meant to be heard by outsiders. He burst into the stairwell, vaulted 3 flights down before ducking into the service corridor, threw open a maintenance hatch behind the paneling near the old recording studio, and crawled into the shaft. It was a tight, grimy tunnel lined with tangled wires and the smell of burnt insulation. He'd only used it once before, years ago, during a hide-and-seek game with staff when he was still green and smiling and untouched. Now, he was crawling through it like a fugitive. When he emerged on the lower floor, Taehyung was already waiting by the fire exit in a hoodie, mask, and black cap. "Car's 2 blocks away," Taehyung said. "I'll draw them off." "No." "Trust me, Jungkook, run." Then he shoved him out the door and vanished into the stairwell. Later that night, they regrouped at an anonymous cafe in Itaewon, phones off, faces down. The others were already waiting. Jin, Namjoon, Yoongi, Hoseok, Jimin. They looked like a group of men who hadn't slept in weeks. because they hadn't. Jungkook dropped the bag on the table. Got it. Yoongi opened the drives on an old, offline laptop. The files were encrypted. HYBE's legal counsel's name appeared on almost every page. Inside, sealed NDAs, doctors' reports, manipulation strategies used on trainees, photos, timestamps, full transcripts of private therapy sessions BTS had been ordered to undergo under Contract Clause 42.3b for brand alignment. What the actual hell? Hosok whispered. Namjoon didn't blink. I knew they were keeping records, but not this. Jin clenched his jaw. They recorded our mental breakdowns like they were PR strategies. Because they were, Yoongi said. They were mining our pain. Jimin stood up abruptly. His chair screeched against the floor. His face was pale, lips trembling. There's a file on my mother, he said. Everyone turned. She got a call last year. They told her to stop speaking to dispatch, that if she spoke about my depression, they'd release photos of her clinic visits and spin it as her being unstable. She never told me what happened, but she changed after that. I thought it was grief. I thought I was imagining it. Silence fell over the table like a guillotine. Taehyung returned, breathless, pulling off his cap. I lost them, he said, for now. Yoongi stared at him. They're not chasing us anymore. They're warning us. Namjoon leaned forward. We're not the first to try this, but we might be the last. What do you mean? Jungkook asked. Namjoon tapped the files on the screen. These documents reference other groups. Some we know, some we don't. One of them was disbanded after a scandal. But according to this, he held up the screen. They were silenced after trying to expose the same thing we're doing. Who? Jin asked. Namjoon swallowed. Velvet Theory, the girl group that vanished in 2016. They said they got into a legal fight over contracts, Hosok said. No, Namjoon said. They got into a truth fight and lost. A heavy pause. Then Yoongi leaned back, rubbing his temples. If we leak all of this, we don't just hurt HYBE, we destroy K-pop as people know it. Jimin looked at him. Good. No, listen, Yoongi said. We've spent our whole careers fighting to prove we were more than a manufactured group. But if people see this, they'll believe no idol was ever real, that it was all fake, including us. Namjoon nodded slowly. This isn't a bomb, it's a nuclear warhead. So what? Taehyung said, voice sharp. We hide again, play the game, smile and perform and hope nobody else dies under the weight of the same silence that nearly killed us. No, Namjoon said. We choose the battlefield and we take our time. That night, they didn't sleep. They made copies, printed documents, recorded testimonials. Each member, in turn, sat before a camera and spoke, not as idols, not as stars, but as survivors. Jin confessed the insomnia, the suicidal ideation in 2018. Yoongi spoke about his panic attacks in studio booths, hidden behind a persona that had stopped feeling real. Hosok talked about smiling while breaking. Taehyung admitted to his therapy records being edited to seem light-hearted before public release. Jungkook's video was the last. He sat in front of the camera for 20 minutes before speaking. Then, I've been told who to be since I was 13, what to wear, who to love, who not to love, what to say, who to forgive, what to sing about. I don't regret my success, but I regret who I had to leave behind to get it. His hands trembled. I lost myself somewhere between version 2 and 3 of who I was supposed to be. But now, for the first time, I don't care if you hate me for the truth, because I'd rather be hated than hollow. It wasn't uploaded. Not yet. Namjoon made the final call. We wait, he said, until they make their next move. Then we respond with the weight of everything they tried to bury. And the move came. 3 days later, Dispatch dropped an exclusive. Breaking, BTS internal betrayal, who leaked the files. Inside, screenshots of private group chats, emails, voice notes, most taken out of context, but enough to suggest infighting, betrayal, and Jungkook as the supposed source of the leaks. It was fabricated. They all knew it. But the damage was already done. The fandom split. Hashtags exploded. Some demanded truth, others turned on each other. Jungkook stared at the screen, emotionless. I knew this would happen. Jimin stood beside him. We all did. Namjoon looked at the group. It's time. And in the hours that followed, the truth detonated. The videos. The files. The interviews. They released it all. No filters, no edits, no compromises. The response was unlike anything the world had seen. News outlets scrambled. Agencies went into crisis mode. K-pop entered a state of emergency. Talk shows, government hearings, idol strikes. Fans camped outside stations demanding protection laws for trainees. And BTS. They vanished. Again. Not in hiding, but in transition. Because sometimes, the only way to be reborn is to burn every lie to ash. It began with a phone call. Kim Namjoon, the voice on the other end said, cool and clipped. There's a warrant out for Jungkook's arrest. Namjoon didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. His eyes flicked up to the wall of the dim apartment where they were staying, a place so forgotten it wasn't even on GPS, and then to the rest of the group gathered around Yoongi's laptop. What charge? Namjoon asked quietly. Unauthorized access to private property, theft of intellectual property, corporate sabotage. It's a play, the voice continued. A desperate one, but it's loud enough to cause damage. Namjoon ended the call. He turned around slowly. They're trying to take him in. Everyone froze. Jungkook, seated on the floor against the far wall, his legs folded beneath him and his hands wrapped around a cooling mug of tea, tilted his head like he'd misheard. What? Yoongi's fingers froze on the keyboard. They're arresting you. No, Namjoon shook his head. They're planning to. They'll drag you in, parade you through headlines, bury us under the spectacle. Let them, Jungkook said without blinking. Jin's voice cracked. Don't be stupid. They're doing it anyway, Jungkook said, his voice too steady, too resigned. At least this way it ends with one of us taking responsibility. We all take responsibility, Jimin snapped, standing up. His voice trembled, not from fear but fury. That was the whole point. No one falls alone. Taehyung walked to the window, parting the curtain just enough to peek at the street below. No cars, no movement, but too much silence. We have maybe 6 hours, he said, if that. Yoongi stood. Then we leak the final batch. Namjoon gave a tight nod. Tonight. The files they'd been holding back were the ones that would shake the pillars. Not just HYBE, not just LUXEMEDIA, but the entire system. Bank transfers from entertainment companies to public officials. Direct evidence of forced dating scandals, engineered to distract the public from bigger controversies. Leaked contracts with clauses that stripped underage trainees of their legal rights. And worse, photos, videos, the kind of footage that would be dismissed as conspiracy if they didn't have timestamps, coordinates, and source verification. Hosak was the one to upload it. His fingers shook, but his eyes didn't waver. I want to be the one to press it, he said, because I was the one who told my therapist I'd rather be a product than a burden. He clicked. It was done. Within 20 minutes, every major social media platform crashed under the weight of the release. Trending tabs were replaced with emergency statements. News networks interrupted scheduled broadcasts. Influencers suddenly went silent. Some began deleting tweets, brands, CEOs, executives. Then came the counterattack. HYBE released an official statement denying everything. So did the Ministry of Culture. But the real blow came from within. One of their former choreographers, Yoon posted a tearful live video. She worked with BTS in their early years. She told stories of overworked teens, of managers screaming behind closed doors, of young boys limping off stage only to be forced into retakes for camera quality. I watched Jimin collapse in a hallway after a rehearsal. He was shaking, crying, and I was told not to call a doctor. I did anyway, and I was fired. The internet exploded again. Armies, fractured before, reunited like a wave breaking over glass. Some defended, some wept, some apologized for not seeing it sooner. But the real question now was simple. What would BTS do next? Yoongi sat cross-legged on the apartment floor that night, staring at the ceiling. "We should disappear," he said. Everyone looked at him. "For how long?" Jin asked. "Forever." Taehyung narrowed his eyes. "That's surrender." "No," Yoongi said. "It's survival." "I'm not hiding," Jimin said. "Not anymore. I hid when I was 16. I hid when my first panic attack happened on tour and the staff told me to breathe through it. I'm done hiding." Namjoon exhaled sharply. "Then we stand together." "But not as BTS," Yoongi said. That silenced the room. "What are you saying?" Jungkook asked. "We've become something they can weaponize," Yoongi replied. "BTS is a name now, a brand, a currency. It doesn't belong to us anymore, not in the way it should. If we go forward using that name, we're giving them the right to tell our story their way." Taehyung crossed his arms. "So we what? Change our name and pretend we're new people?" "No," Namjoon said. "We make it clear we've changed, and that BTS is over because of them." Jin ran a hand through his hair. "That will destroy the fanbase." "Or liberate it," Hoseok said quietly. They sat with that. At 3:42 a.m., Namjoon posted a letter. Typed. No signature. No logo. Just raw words. "We are not your idols anymore. We were never just your performers. We gave our youth, our minds, our blood. And in return, we were given golden cages. But the locks are broken now. BTS, as you knew it, ends today. What we become next, that's ours to define. Panic, outrage, mourning, liberation. The world reacted like it had lost a religion. And maybe it had. 3 days later, Jungkook turned himself in. He walked into the Seoul Metropolitan Police headquarters without an entourage, dressed in black, with a small silver pin of a broken heart on his collar. Reporters swarmed. Flashes exploded. He said nothing. He entered the building and was gone. Inside, the officers didn't meet his eyes. He was placed in a room, no cuffs, no questions, just silence. An hour later, a lawyer walked in. "I'm here to negotiate your immunity," she said. Jungkook blinked. "On whose authority?" The lawyer smiled. "HYBE, they want to settle." Outside, the world was catching fire. And inside, the game was changing again. Because the wolves weren't just at the door anymore. They were inside the house. The interrogation room was clean, too clean. The kind of cold that wasn't just physical but designed, clinical, intentional. Jungkook sat alone at the metal table, wrists loose, spine straight, heart still. On the surface, he looked composed. Inside, every muscle in his body was a war. The lawyer across from him, Han Seojin, wore a pristine navy suit and a smirk that reeked of corporate arrogance. She had no clipboard, no briefcase, just her voice, and that was sharper than any pen. "They're offering you full immunity," she said, leaning forward. "But it comes with conditions." Jungkook raised an eyebrow, expression unreadable. "Of course it does." HYBE is willing to retract the charges. Publicly, they'll spin it as a misunderstanding, a miscommunication between departments. You'll walk free, no criminal record, no further interference. And you release a statement, not an apology, just clarification. You say your actions were emotionally motivated, that you weren't fully aware of the implications of your leaks, that certain files were incomplete, possibly misinterpreted by the public. "In other words," Jungkook said quietly, "I become a liar again." Han didn't blink. "You become marketable again." Jungkook leaned forward now, his voice low and deliberate. "Do you know what it's like to smile for cameras after someone tells you they own your body? Your time, your grief. I've done that since I was 15. I don't want to be marketable. I want to be free." "You're not understanding the stakes." No, you're not. Jungkook's voice didn't rise, but it dropped into something darker. You think I came here because I'm afraid? I came here to show them I'm not. To show every trainee locked in a windowless room that their silence isn't the only option. I'm not taking your deal. Han sighed, leaned back and crossed her legs. You really believe your little rebellion is going to change anything? Jungkook stood up. It already has. Meanwhile, across Seoul, the rest of the members were huddled in a rented art studio, its walls covered with lyrics, sketches, maps, timelines. Jimin stood at the center, eyes locked on the screen where Jungkook's arrest was being reported live. His hands were trembling again, the way they used to before going on stage. He shouldn't be in there alone, Jimin said, almost to himself. He's not, Namjoon replied, scrolling through the response statements they'd prepared. We've got 3 legal teams on standby. International pressure is mounting. UN reps are asking questions. Even Amnesty International issued a note. Taehyung sat on the edge of the table, chewing on a pen. Still feels like they're trying to flip the script again, paint him as unhinged, isolated. Yoongi stood by the window, back turned to them all. Then we remind them what unity looks like. He turned. We go live, tonight. Hosak looked up. All of us. All of us. Jin shook his head. We do that, there's no going back, no rebranding, no comeback tour, not even solo careers will be untouchable, in the worst way. Namjoon folded his arms. Then we build something new, from the ashes. A beat of silence passed. Then Jimin said, he did it for us, now we do it for him. That night they streamed. No filters, no makeup, no polished set. Just 7 chairs. 6 of them filled. The 7th empty. Jin spoke first. If you're watching this hopping for an apology, you're not getting one. Yoongi followed. Because what we did, what Jungkook did, was not a mistake. It was the first honest thing we've done in years. Namjoon's voice was calm, practiced. This industry took our youth, our health, our peace, and we gave it willingly because we believed it would mean something. But meaning doesn't come from money or trophies, it comes from truth. Hosak looked into the camera, eyes wet. This is for every trainee who was told to lose weight before debut, every kid who danced until their feet bled, every idol forced to date, to stay silent to break. Taehyung's voice cracked. You weren't crazy, you weren't weak, you were manipulated. Jimin stood. This is our goodbye to the system that broke us, but not to you, never to you. He turned, placed a hand on the 7th chair. This is for Jungkook. They ended the stream. Within minutes, the feed had been duplicated, translated, uploaded globally. The hashtag hash for Jungkook hit 20 million mentions in under an hour. Protests formed outside HYBE. Trainees began speaking out under burner accounts. But the most shocking response came from the unlikeliest place. Former executives, disgraced managers, retired idols. And then Seorin. She uploaded a video at dawn, no makeup, tear-streaked, a woman broken by the same machine she'd helped power. I was raised to believe that control was love, that manipulation was strategy. I was wrong. Jungkook, Jimin, all of them. They were never the villains, I was, or at least I played my part. The world reeled. Inside the police holding facility, Jungkook was moved to a private room, not a cell. A containment space, they called it. He sat on the bed, watching the clips from the stream on the small TV in the corner. His brothers, their voices, their eyes, his name. He didn't cry, not yet. But something cracked open in his chest, something that hadn't moved in years. Later, an officer came in, handed him a phone. It's for you. Jungkook answered. You started a movement, the voice said. Now finish it. It was Bang Si-hyuk, the founder of HYBE, the man who built their empire and buried its secrets. What do you want? Jungkook asked. To talk, Bang said, in person. Jungkook hesitated. I'm listening. The meeting happened in a private room in a government building under supervision. Jungkook arrived alone. Bang Si-hyuk sat at the table, older now, heavier, but still with eyes that saw too much. "You were always the one I couldn't predict," Bang said with a small smile. "That was your first mistake." Bang laughed once, dry. "You were right about everything, the abuse, the manipulation, the betrayal, and I let it happen, I built it." "Why are you here?" "Because it's collapsing, not just HYBE, the whole industry, and the only people who can save it are the ones brave enough to tell the truth, all of it." Jungkook narrowed his eyes. "You want me to help you rebuild?" "No," Bang said. "I want you to help burn the rest of it down." Jungkook didn't reply immediately. He thought of the boys, of the years, of the nights he couldn't sleep, of the fans, of the pain. And finally he said, "I'll help, but on one condition." "Anything. We start over, from scratch, and we never call it K-pop again." 2 weeks later, Jungkook was released. No charges. No court date. Just a silent exodus. Outside, thousands waited. Armies. Reporters. Civilians. When Jungkook stepped out, the roar was deafening. He didn't wave. He didn't bow. He just walked straight into the sea of noise, into his members' arms, who waited at the front line. Namjoon whispered, "We're not idols anymore." Yoongi smiled. "No, we're something they never saw coming." They didn't perform. They didn't record. They disappeared. And then, 3 months later, without warning, a new video appeared. 7 shadows. 7 voices. 1 line in chorus. "We're not back. We're becoming." The world held its breath. And the stage, cracked, scorched, reshaped, was never the same again.